The Apocrypha, the Wisdom of Sirach, Ecclesiasticus, will continue on, starting with chapter 10.1 through the next 10 chapters. Chapters 10.1. A wise judge will instruct his people, and the government of a prudent man is well ordered. As the judge of the people is himself, so are his officers, and what manner of man the ruler of the city is. Such are all they that dwell therein. An unwise king destroyed his people, but through the prudence of them which are in authority the city shall be inhabited. The power of the earth is in the hand of Mighty God AHAYAH, and in due time he will set over it one that is profitable. In the hand of Mighty God AHAYAH is the prosperity of man, and upon the person of the scribe shall he lay his honor. Bear not hatred to thy neighbor for every wrong, and do nothing at all by injurious practices. Pride is hateful before Mighty God AHAYAH and man, and by both do one commit iniquity, sin. Because of unrighteousness dealings and injuries and riches got by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another. Why is earth and ashes proud? There is not a more wicked thing than a covetous man, for such an one sitteth his own soul to sell, because while he liveth he casteth away his bowels. The physician cutteth off a long disease, and he that is today a king tomorrow shall die. For when a man is dead, he shall inherit creeping things, beasts, and worms. The beginning of pride is when one departed from Mighty God AHAYAH, and his heart is turned away from his Maker. For pride is the beginning of sin, and he that had it shall pour out abominations, and therefore Mighty God AHAYAH brought upon them strange calamities, and overthrew them utterly. AHAYAH Mighty God had cast down the thrones of proud princes, and set up the meek, the kind, in their stead. Mighty God AHAYAH had plucked up the roots of the proud nations, and planted the lowly in their place. Mighty God AHAYAH overthrew countries of the heathen, and destroyed them to the foundations of the earth. He took some of them away, and destroyed them, and had made their memorial to cease from the earth. Pride was not made for men, nor furious anger for them that are born of woman. They that fear Mighty God AHAYAH are a sure seed, and they that love him an honorable plant. They that regard not the law are a dishonorable seed. They that transgress the commandments are a deceivable seed. Among brethren he that is chief is honorable, so are they that fear Mighty God AHAYAH in his eyes. The fear of Mighty God AHAYAH goeth before the obtaining of authority, but roughness and pride is the losing thereof. Whether he be rich, noble, or poor, their glory is the fear of Mighty God AHAYAH. It is not meet to despise the poor man that had understanding, neither is it convenient to magnify a sinful man. Great men and judges and potentates shall be honored, yet is there none of them greater than he that feared Mighty God AHAYAH. Unto the servant that is wise shall they that are free do service, and he that had knowledge will not grudge when he is reformed. Be not overwise in doing thy business, and boast not thyself in the time of thy distress. Better is he that laboureth and abhorreth in all things, that he that boasted himself and wanted bread. My son, glorify thy soul in meekness and kindness, and give it honor according to the dignity thereof. Who will justify him that sinneth against his own soul, and who will honor him that dishonoureth his own life? The poor man is honored for his skill, and the rich man is honored for riches. He that is honored in poverty, how much more in riches? And he that is dishonorable in riches, how much more in poverty? Wisdom lifted up the head of him that is low degree, and maketh him to sit among great men. Commend not a man for his beauty, neither abhor a man for his outward appearance. The bee is little among such as fly, but her fruit is the chief of sweet things. Boast not of thy clothing and raiment, and exalt not thyself in the day of honor, For the works of Mighty God AHAYAH are wonderful, and his works among men are hidden. Many kings have sat down upon the ground, and one that was never thought of hath worn the crown. Many mighty men have been greatly disgraced, and the honorable delivered into other men's hands. Blame not before thou hast examined the truth. Understand first, and then rebuke. Answer not before thou hast heard the cause, neither interrupt men in the midst of their talk. Strive not in a matter that concerneth thee not, and sit not in judgment with sinners. My son, meddle not with many matters, for if thou meddle much, thou shalt not be innocent, and if thou follow after, thou shalt not obtain, neither shalt thou escape by fleeing. Neither there is one that laboureth and taketh pains and maketh haste, and is so much the more behind. Again, there is another that is slow and had need of help, wanting ability and full of poverty, yet the eyes of Mighty God AHAYAH looketh upon him for good, and set him up from his low estate. Blessed be his name. And lifted up his head from misery, so that many that saw from him is peace all over the prosperity and adversity, life and death, poverty and riches come of AHAYAH, Mighty God. Wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of the law are of Mighty God AHAYAH. Love and the way of good works are from him. Error and darkness have their beginning together with sinners, and evil shall wax old with them that glory therein. The gift of Mighty God AHAYAH remaineth with the ungodly, and his favor bringeth prosperity forever. There is that waxeth rich by his weariness and pinching, and this is his portion of his reward. Whereas he said, I have found rest, and now will eat continually of my goods, and yet he knoweth not what time shall come upon him, and that he must leave those things to others and die. Be steadfast in thy covenant, and be conversant therein, and wax old in thy work. Marvel not at the works of sinners, but trust in Mighty God AHAYAH, and abide in thy labor, for it is an easy thing in the sight of Mighty God AHAYAH on the sudden to make a poor man rich. The blessing of Mighty God AHAYAH is the reward of the godly, and suddenly he maketh his blessing flourish. Say not, what profit is there of my service, and what good things shall I have hereafter? Again, say not, I have enough and possess many things, and what evil shall I have thereafter? In the day of prosperity there is a forgetfulness of affliction, and in the day of affliction there is no more remembrance of prosperity. For it is an easy thing unto Mighty God AHAYAH in the day of death to reward a man according to his ways. The affliction of an hour maketh a man forget pleasure, and in his end his deeds shall be discovered. Judge none blessed before his death, for a man shall be known in his children. Bring not every man into thine house, for the deceitful man had many trains. Like as a partridge taken and kept in a cage, so is the heart of the proud, and like as a spy watcheth he for thy fall. For he lieth in wait, and turneth good into evil, and in things worthy praise will lay blame upon thee. Of a spark of fire a heap of coals is kindled, and a sinful man layeth wait for blood. Take heed of a mischievous man, for he worketh wickedness, lest he bring upon thee a perpetual blot. Receive a stranger into thine house, and he will disturb thee, and turn thee out of thine own. When thou wilt do good, know to whom thou doest it, so shalt thou be thanked for thy benefits. Do good to the godly man, and thou shalt find a recompense, and if not from him, yet from the Most High. There can no good come to him that is always occupied in evil, nor to him that giveth no alms. Give to the godly man, and help not a sinner. Do well unto him that is lowly, but give not to the ungodly. Hold back thy bread, and give it not unto him, lest he overmaster thee thereby. For else thou shalt receive twice as much evil for all the good thou shalt have done unto him. For the Most High God, Mighty God AHAYAH, hateth sinner, and will repay vengeance upon the ungodly, and keepeth them against the mighty day of their punishment. Give unto the good and help not the sinner. A friend cannot be known in prosperity, and an enemy cannot be hidden in adversity. In the prosperity of a man enemies will be grieved, but in his adversity even a friend will depart. Never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusted, so is his wickedness. Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him, and thou shalt be unto him as if thou hadst wiped a looking glass, and thou shalt know that his rust had not been altogether wiped away. Set him not by thee, lest when he had overthrown thee, he stand up in thy place, neither let him sit at thy right hand, lest he seek to take thy seat, and thou at the last remember my words, and be pricked therewith. Who would pity a charmer that is bitten with a serpent, or any such as come nigh wild beast? So one that goeth to a sinner, and is defiled with him in his sins, who will pity? For a while he will abide with thee, but if thou begin to fall, he will not tarry. An enemy speaketh sweetly with his lips, but in his heart he imagineth how to throw thee into a pit. He will weep with his eyes, but if he find opportunity, he will not be satisfied with blood. If adversity come upon thee, thou shalt find him there first, and though he pretend to help thee, yet shall he undermine thee. He will shake his head and clap his hands, and whisper much, and change his countenance. He that toucheth pitch shall be defiled therewith, and he that hath fellowship with a proud man shall be like unto him. Burden not thyself above thy power while thou livest, and have no fellowship with one that is mightier and richer than thyself. For how agree the kettle and the earthen pot together? For if the one be smitten against the other, it shall be broken. The rich man had done wrong, and yet threatened withal. The poor is wrong, and he must entreat also. If thou be for his profit, he will use thee, but if thou have nothing, he will forsake thee. If thou have anything, he will live with thee, yea, he will make thee bear, and will not be sorry for it. If he had need of thee, he will deceive thee, and smile upon thee, and put thee in hope. He will speak thee fair, and say, What wantest thou? And he will shame thee by his meats, until he have drawn thee dry twice or thrice, 3 times, twice or 3 times, and at the last he will laugh thee to scorn afterward. When he sitteth thee, he will forsake thee, and shake his head at thee. Beware that thou be not deceived, and brought down into thy jollity. If thou be invited of a mighty man, withdraw thyself, and so much the more will he invite thee. Press thou not upon him, lest thou be put back. Stand not afar off, lest thou be forgotten. Affect not to be made equal unto him in talk, and believe not his many words, for with much communication he will tempt thee, and smiling upon thee will get out thy secrets. But cruelly he will lay up thy words, and will not spare to do thee hurt, and to put thee in prison. Observe and take good heed, for thou walkest in peril of thy overthrowing, when thou hearest these things awake in thy sleep. Love mighty God AHAYAH all thy life, and call upon him for thy salvation. Every beast loveth his like, and every man loveth his neighbor. All flesh consorted according to kind, and a man will cleave to his like. What fellowship hath the wolf with the lamb? So the sinner with the godly. What agreement is there between the hyena and a dog? And what peace between the rich and the poor? As the wild ass is the lion's prey in the wilderness, so the rich eat up the poor. As the proud hate humility, so do the rich abhor the poor. A rich man beginning to fall is held up of his friends, but a poor man being down is thrust away by his friends. When a rich man is fallen, he had many helpers. He speaketh things not to be spoken, and yet men justify him. The poor man slipped, and yet they rebuke him too. He spake wisely, and could have no place. When a rich man speaketh, every man holdeth his tongue, and look what he said, extol it to the clouds. But if the poor man speak, they say, What fellow is this? And if he stumble, they will help to overthrow him. Riches are good unto him that had no sin, and poverty is evil in the mouth of the ungodly. The heart of a man changeth his countenance, whether it be for good or evil, and a merry heart maketh a cheerful countenance. A cheerful countenance is a token of a heart that is in prosperity, and the finding out of parables is a wearisome labor of the mind. Blessed is the man that hath not slipped with his mouth, and is not pricked with the multitude of sins. Blessed is he whose conscience hath not been condemned him, and who is not fallen from his hope in Mighty God AHAYAH. Riches are not commonly for a niggard, and what should an envious man do with money? Niggard. Say, riches are not commonly for a niggard, and what should an envious man do with money? He that gathereth by defrauding his own soul gathereth for others, that shall spend his goods riotously. He that is evil to himself, to whom will he be good? He shall not take pleasure in his goods. There is none worse than he that envieth himself, and this is a recompense of his wickedness. And if he do good, he do it unwillingly, and at the last he will declare his wickedness. The envious man had a wicked eye, he turneth away his face, and despiseth men. A covetous man's eye is not satisfied with his portion, and the iniquity of the wicked dried up his soul. A wicked eye envieth his bread, and he is a niggard at his table. My son, according to the ability, do good to thyself, and give Mighty God AHAYAH his due offering. Remember that death will not be long in coming, and that the covenant of the grave is not showed unto thee. Do good unto thy friend before thou die, and according to the ability stretch out thine hand and give it to him. Defraud not thyself of the good day, and let not the part of a good desire overpass thee. Shalt thou not leave thy travails unto another, and thy labors to be divided by lot? Give and take, and sanctify thy soul, for there is no seeking of vanities in the grave. All flesh waxeth old as a garment, for the covenant from the beginning is, Thou shalt die the death. As of the green leaves on a thick tree, some fall and some grow, some in the generation of flesh and blood, one cometh to an end, and another is born. Every work rotted and consumed away, and the worker thereof shall go withal. Blessed is the man that do meditate good things in wisdom, and the reason of holy things by his understanding. He that considereth her ways in his heart shall also have understanding in her secrets. Go after her as one that traceth, and lie in wait in her ways. He that prieth in at her windows shall also hearken at her doors. He that doth lodge near her house shall also fasten a pin in her walls. He shall pitch his tent nigh unto her, and shall lodge in a lodging where good things are. He shall set his children under her shelter, and shall lodge under her branches. By her he shall be covered from heat, and in her glory shall he dwell. For the fear of Mighty God AHAYAH will do good, and he that hath the knowledge of the law shall obtain her. And as a mother shall she meet him, and receive him as a wife married of a virgin. With the bread of understanding shall she feed him, and give him the water of wisdom to drink. He shall be stayed upon her, and shall not be moved, and shall rely upon her, and shall not be confounded. She shall exalt him above his neighbors, and in the midst of the congregation of assembly shall she open his mouth. He shall find joy and a crown of gladness, and she shall cause him to inherit an everlasting name. But foolish men shall not attain unto her, and sinners shall not see her. For she is far from pride, and men that are liars cannot remember her. Praise is not seemingly in the mouth of a sinner, for it was not sent him of Mighty God AHAYAH. For praise shall be uttered in wisdom, and Mighty God AHAYAH will prosper it. Say not thou, it is through Mighty God AHAYAH, that I fell away? For thou oughtest not to do the thing that he hated. Say not thou, he had caused me to err, for he had not no need of the sinful man. Mighty God AHAYAH hated all abomination, and they that fear Mighty God AHAYAH love it not. He himself made man from the beginning, and led him in the hand of his counsel, if thou wilt to keep the commandments and to perform acceptable faithfulness. He had set fire and water before thee. Stretch forth thy hand unto whether thou wilt. Before man is life and death, and whether him like it shall be given him. For the wisdom of Mighty God AHAYAH is great, and he is mighty in power, and beholdeth all things. And his eyes are upon them that fear him, and he knoweth every work of man. He had commanded no man to do wickedly, neither had he given any man license to sin. Desire not a multitude of unprofitable children, neither delight in ungodly sons. Though they multiply, rejoice not in them, except the fear of Mighty God AHAYAH be with them. Trust not thou in their life, neither respect their multitude, for one that is just is better than 1,000, and better it is to die without children than to have them that are ungodly. For by one that had understanding shall the city be replenished, but the kindred of the wicked shall speedily become desolate. Many such things have I seen with mine eyes, and mine ear had heard greater things than these. In the congregation of assembly of the ungodly shall a fire be kindled, and in a rebellious nation wrath is set on fire. He was not pacified toward the old giants who fell away in the strength of their foolishness. Neither spared he the place where Lot sojourned, but abhorred them for their pride. He pitied not the people of perdition, who were taken away in their sins, nor the 600,000 footmen who were gathered together in the hardness of their heart. And if there be one stiff-necked among the people, it is marvel if he escape unpunished, for mercy and wrath are with him. He is mighty to forgive and to pour out displeasure. As his mercy is great, so is his correction also. He judgeth a man according to his words. The sinner shall not escape with the spoils, and the patience of the godly shall not be frustrate. Make way for every work of mercy, for every man shall find according to his works. Mighty God AHAYAH hardened Pharaoh, that he should not know him, that his powerful work might be known to the world. His mercy is manifest to every creature, and he had separated his light from the darkness and an adamant. Say not thou, I will hide myself from Mighty God AHAYAH. Shall any remember me from above? I shall not be remembered among so many people, for what is my soul among such an infinite number of creatures? Behold, the heaven and the heaven of heavens, the deep and the earth, and all that therein is, shall be moved when he shall visit. The mountains also and foundations of the earth be shaken with trembling, when Mighty God AHAYAH looketh upon it. No heart can think upon these things worthily, and who is able to conceive his ways? It is a tempest which no man can see, for the most part of his works are hid. Who can declare the works of his justice, or who can endure them? For his covenant is afar off, and the trial of all things is at an end. He that wanted understanding will think upon vain things, and a foolish man erring imagine follies. My son, hearken unto me, and learn knowledge, and mark my words with thy heart. I will show forth doctrine in weight, and declare his knowledge exactly. The works of Mighty God AHAYAH are done in judgment from the beginning, and from the time he made them, he disposed the parts thereof. He garnished his works forever, and in his hand are the chief of them unto all generations. They neither labor nor are weary, nor cease from their works. None of them hindered another, and they shall never disobey his word. After this, Mighty God AHAYAH looked upon the earth, and filled it with his blessings. With all manner of living things hath he covered the face thereof, and they shall return into it again. Mighty God AHAYAH created man on the earth, and turned him into it again. He gave them few days and a short time, and power also over the things therein. He endured them with strength by themselves, and made them according to his image. And he put the fear of man upon all flesh, and gave him dominion over beasts and fowls. They received the use of the 5 operations of Mighty God AHAYAH, and in the 6th place he imparted them understanding, and in the 7th speech and interpreter of the cogitations thereof. Sorry about that. Counsel and a tongue and eyes, ears and a heart gave him them to understand. Withal he filled them with the knowledge of understanding, and showed them good and evil. He set his eyes upon their hearts, that he might show them the greatness of his works. He gave them to glory in his marvelous acts forever, that they might declare his works with understanding. And the elect shall praise his holy name, AHAYAH. Besides this, he gave them knowledge and the law of life for an heritage. He made an everlasting covenant with them, and showed them his judgments. Their eyes saw the majesty of his glory, and their ears heard his glorious voice. And he said unto them, Beware of all unrighteousness, and he gave every man commandment concerning his neighbor. Their ways are ever before him, and shall not be hid from his eyes. Every man from his youth is given to evil, neither could they make to themselves fleshly hearts for stoning. For in the division of the nations of the whole earth he set a ruler over every people, but Israel is Mighty God AHAYAH's apportions, whom being his firstborn he nourished with discipline, and giving him the light of his love, do not forsake him. Therefore all their works are as the sun before him, and his eyes are continually upon their ways. None of their unrighteous deeds are hid from him, but all their sins are before Mighty God AHAYAH. But Mighty God AHAYAH, being gracious and knowing his workmanship, neither left nor forsook them, but spared Israel. The alms of a man is as a signet with him, and he will keep the good deeds of man as the apple of the eye, and give repentance to his sons and daughters. Afterwards he will rise up and reward them, and render their recompense upon their heads. But unto them that repent he granted them return, and comfort those that failed in patience. Return unto Mighty God AHAYAH, and forsake thy sins. Make thy prayer before his face, and offend less. Turn again to the Most High, and turn away from iniquity, for he will lead thee out of darkness into the light of health, and hate thou abomination vehemently. Who shall praise the Most High Yah in the grave instead of them which live and give thanks? Thanksgiving perisheth from the dead, as from one that is not. The living and sound in heart shall praise Mighty God AHAYAH. How great is the loving kindness of Mighty God AHAYAH, our King and Father, and his compassion unto such as turn unto him in holiness. Blessed be his name. For all things cannot be in men, because the Son of Man is not immortal. What is brighter than the sun? Yet the light thereof faileth, and flesh and blood will imagine evil. He vieweth the power of the height of heaven, and all men are but earth and ashes. He that liveth forever had created all things in general. Mighty God AHAYAH only is righteous, and there is none other but he, who governeth the world with the palm of his hand, and all things obey his will, for he is the King of all, by his power dividing holy things among them from profane. To whom had he given power to declare his works, and who shall find out his noble acts? Who shall number the strength of his majesty, and who shall also tell out his mercies? As for the wondrous works of Mighty God AHAYAH, there may nothing be taken from them, neither may anything be put unto them, neither can the ground of them be found out. When a man hath done, then he beginneth, and when he leaveth off, then he shall be doubtful. What is a man, and whereunto serveth he? What is his good, and what is his evil? The number of man's days at the most are 100 years. As a drop of water into the sea, and a gravel stone in comparison of the sand, so are 1,000 years to the days of eternity. Therefore is mighty God AHAYAH patient with them, and poured forth his mercy upon them. He saw and perceived their end to be evil, therefore he multiplied his compassion. The mercy of man is toward his neighbor, but the mercy of mighty God AHAYAH is upon all flesh. He reproveth and nurtured, and teacheth, and bringeth again, as a shepherd his flock. He had mercy on them that receive discipline, and that diligently seek after his judgment. My son, blemish not thy good deeds, neither use uncomfortable words when thou givest anything. Shall not the dew assuage the heat? So is a word better than a gift. Lo, is not a word better than a gift, but both are with a gracious man? A fool will upbraid churlishly, and a gift of the envious consumeth thine eyes. Learn before thou speak, and use physics over every thou be sick. Before judgment examine thyself, and in the day of visitation thou shalt find mercy. Humble thyself before thou be sick, and in the time of sin show repentance. Let nothing hinder thee to pay thy vow in due time, and defer not until death to be justified. Before thou prayest, prepare thyself, and be not as one that tempted mighty God AHAYAH. Think upon the wrath that shall be at the end, and the time of vengeance, when he shall turn away his face. When thou hast enough, remember the time of hunger, and when thou art rich, think upon poverty and need. From the morning until the evening the time is changed, and all things are soon done before mighty God AHAYAH. A wise man will fear in everything, and in the days of sinning he will beware of offense, but a fool will not observe time. Every man of understanding knoweth wisdom, and will give praise unto him that found her. They that were of understanding in sayings became also wise themselves, and poured forth exquisite parables. Go not after thy lust, but refrain thyself from thine appetites. If thou givest thy soul the desires of that please her, she will make thee a laughingstock to thine enemies that malign thee. Take not pleasure in much good cheer, neither be tied to the expense thereof. Be not made a beggar by banqueting upon borrowing, when thou hast nothing in thy purse, for thou shalt lie in wait for thine own life, and be talked on. A laboring man that is given to drunkenness shall not be rich, and he that contempteth small things shall fall by little and little. Wine and women will make men of understanding to fall away, and he that cleaveth to harlots will become imprudent. Moths and worms shall have him to inherit, and a bold man shall be taken away. He that is hasty to give credit is light-minded, and he that sinneth shall offend against his own soul. Whoso taketh pleasure in wickedness shall be condemned, but he that resisteth pleasures crowneth his life. He that can rule his tongue shall live without strife, and he that hated babbling shall have less evil. Rehearse not unto another that which is told unto thee, and thou shalt fear never the worse. Thou shalt fear never the worse. Whether it be to friend or foe, talk not of other men's lives, and if thou canst without offense, reveal them not. For he heard and observed thee, and when time cometh he will hate thee. If thou hast heard a word, let it die with thee, and be bold, it will not burst thee. No gossiping, in other words. A foolish travaileth with a word, as a woman in labor of a child. As an arrow that's sticking in a man's thigh, so is a word within a fool's belly. Admonish a friend, it may be he had not done it, and if he had done it, that he do it no more. Admonish thy friend, it may be he had not said it, and if he had, that he speak it not again. Admonish a friend, for many times it is a slander, and believe not every tale. There is one that slippeth in his speech, but not from his heart. And who is he that had not offended with his tongue? Admonish thy neighbor before thou threaten him, and not being angry give place to the law of the Most High. The fear of Mighty God AHAYAH is the first step to be accepted of him, and wisdom obtaineth his love. The knowledge of the commandments of Mighty God AHAYAH is the doctrine of life, and they that do things that please him shall receive the fruits of the tree of immortality. The fear of Mighty God AHAYAH is all wisdom, and in all wisdom is the performance of the law and the knowledge of his omnipotency. If a servant say to his master, I will not do as it pleaseth thee, though afterward he do it, he angered him that nourished him. The knowledge of wickedness is not wisdom, neither at any time the counsel of sinners prudence. There is a wickedness, and the same an abomination, and there is a fool wanting in wisdom. He that had small understanding and feared Mighty God AHAYAH is better than one that had much wisdom and transgresseth the law of the Most High. There is an exquisite subtlety, and the same is unjust, and there is one that turneth aside to make judgment appear, and there is a wise man that justified in judgment. There is a wicked man that hangeth down his head sadly, but inwardly he is full of deceit. Casting down his countenance and making as if he heard not, where he is not known, he will do thee a mischief before thou be aware. And if for want of power he is hindered from sinning, yet when he findeth opportunity he will do evil. A man may be known by his look, and one that had understanding by his countenance when they meetest him. A man's attire and excess of laughter and gait show what he is. And we're going to stop at that. We stopped at chapter 19.30, and we will continue with chapter 20.1 tomorrow. Thank you for listening.